A little bit about me. This is me in a little bit pictures. I like the beach. This was COVID. If I draw, it's like this. I'm a big fan of Lego, probably because of the spatial aspect of it. I got really hooked on wayfinding, which you will see in a minute. I work for this company. It's called Maxinar. It's already has been founded 35 years ago, and actually we help people to connect with spaces and places around the world. Also a lot in the Netherlands, obviously. Airports, train stations, musea, urban environments like here, and we do that with now about 32 people, I think. And we have an office in New York and one here. This is a little grasp of our work. In the middle top is Dubai, Museum of the Future, Moynihan train station. I think it's the biggest train station in New York City. Obviously, Schiphol as a founding client, and Arnhem, NS, Artis in the middle. So a lot of variation on that theme of wayfinding, which is quite fascinating. And I hope you will share that thought with me afterwards. So what we do is connect people with spaces and places. And we also made it our mission, because guiding people is one thing, but really connect people with spaces and places is another thing, which entitles actually more than just having an arrow and tell you what to do. It also has a lot to do with identity. It has a lot to do with understanding the user needs. It has a lot to do with architecture, light, all these parts which are crucial for you to actually do what you want to do at a certain place. If we walk through spaces, this is a colleague of mine, we always look like that, because we are not the usual walk through a space people. You will always recognize it on our research view. And this is our office in Amsterdam, though during COVID. So we had a little bit more space, or spaces, tables like this, and we actually reduced the amount of spaces. So we reduced the amount of fixed spaces because of places, because it's actually not needed anymore. We have about 50-50 working remote and working on location, which is a whole other problem on its own, because you never actually see everyone in one place. Anyway, other story. I think we had a contact about a year ago about the theme, and said, no, it's critical. I said, oh, yeah, great. And I didn't know what I jumped into, because critical sounds quite, to me it sounded quite hard. And also, critical mind is then a positive set, but it is, so I tried, what can I do with it? So I took the word, and I mean, the word sounds like this, brutal. So I gave it a little bit of a try, and I lightened up a little bit. And maybe I tried also, what can you do if you make it a little bit more friendly and round, but it just didn't work. It stays a hard word. Even if you make it a little bit more friendly, no, it doesn't. It still doesn't work as it's hard. It's a hard word. So I was, reflecting a little bit, digging into what can you do with it, and actually what's the link with the work I do, and what's the positive part of it. And I came up with this, because I'm actually fascinated about how things work, and we are at Maxinar as well, how things work, and look at things differently. That's maybe also a thing we do quite a lot. When working with clients, they always say, well, we haven't actually looked at it like that. And that's maybe one of the parts that we look based on the users quite a lot. So architects look at the buildings and at the spaces. We look at how the user will use it eventually. And based on that, there are a lot of details coming along, and critical details. So the question is then, and I looked it up, what does detail mean or critical mean? one of the distinct parts of a whole is the detail. And I thought that was quite a good start, which softened up the word a little bit. One of the distinct parts of a whole. Okay. Then I went further in actually realizing that the world is full of things, of details. You know, here about the how wide is this and why is it 3 millimeters and not 6? Don't know. Why is it 50 and not 60? So a lot of things have underlying reasons, which are, some of them are critical, some of them are just happening. But it's quite fascinating where they come from. So sometimes we don't realize the importance of it. The question is, when is something critical, really critical? And I can imagine in a train, a brake is quite a critical part, but other things are as critical, but not as obvious. When is something a detail? You can talk about, it depends on the perspective. And what if you would leave one detail away? Would things change? Probably not immediately, but down the line, probably yes. Another kind of very nice explanation of it was, I thought, this one, because it has also a link with design and art, which is the small elements that collectively constitute a work of art, which states actually that every detail counts for the whole and makes it better. So I've already catched you a little bit on the positive vibe here, how to look at the theme. And at the end as well, a question, but that's a question which I carry quite a long time already, is if you don't look at the details and at things normally people don't see, it has to do with the integrity of a product we make or a solution. And that is evident and very crucial in our daily work, that we have to talk a lot to people and convince them that a millimeter is really an important thing, and that a contrast of a letter makes life just easier, but it's a hard sell. So that's where this comes from. So critical details. And I was looking around and I found a couple of things which really interests me and which suddenly became quite evident for the theme as well. And one of them is this. I was quite intrigued because he says that actually the inner side of the computer is as beautiful as the outside, but why would you make it beautiful? Because nobody sees it, maybe the guys who fix it at the end. So this was about integrity, and I thought that was quite interesting, because I don't know how many of you are designers, but at the end you always have to make decisions which probably at the end a fraction of people will really realize that they're there, but they're still important. So how do we convince people that they are important? Again, a hard sell. So I looked it up and I found this. Apparently this is the new MacBook Pro, and it's the inside. It's quite fascinating because it looks very beautiful. It looks like a face to start with, and for the same amount of money probably and effort, they could have done it, made it ugly. You know, take out the colors, make it do the perfection of the roundings here, how this works, the metal, it's all quite balanced. And I think it all has a very, very nice integrity based on the function it has. So it looks like that because the function dictates how it could look. But still, the whole composition is quite nice. So why would someone go to the length and do something which is actually not visible to the normal user, but still make it great? Same with this. It's fascinating how this is like a little city, but it's a chip. Maybe it's a centimeter wide. So why does it look like a built-up city? Why are these dots rounds which are nicely balanced on a good square, great color. It's all very, very functional, but also someone has thought about how it looked. Because at the end, this is Intel, so at the end, little people will probably ever see an Intel chip from close up, because if you see it, you will probably have a problem. But still, a lot of effort went into it to make it look good. So that was one. So these invisible things, which are details and which are probably quite critical, because if they don't work, the whole thing is not working. And I went on to find another couple of examples why details are quite critical to be the best in the world, and kind of champion in what you do. And I was quite, I don't know if you know what this is. Have you followed it? I love sailing, so this was a great party for me a couple of years ago. It's the America's Cup, and the America's Cup is a venue which comes back repeats every 4 years, and it's actually that there are actually millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in this case, I think, go into that sport to develop the utmost perfection in this sport. It's a very, I think only 4 or 5 teams every year apply, and they have to be sponsored by states. Like you have New Zealand, England participated, as well the United States, Sweden as well, and they all collaborate with the industrial designers and the how do you call it, the industry in their countries. But okay, you would say it's sailing. So sailing, normally if you sail, you put up your sails by grinding, by using manpower, and everybody did, except one team, and that I thought was quite fascinating, and it was a detail. In the beginning, everybody thought they're absolutely crazy. So why would you have a bikes on a sailing boat? However, a very, very clever thinking went through that, because they discovered, and they were the underdog, by the way. It's the team New Zealand. They were the underdog, and all the other teams had much more money. But what they did is they looked closely at what the power ratio is if you use your arms and your shoulders. It's much lower than the ones you use with your legs. So suddenly, a sailboat got bikes on it, which is nobody would come up with it thinking clearly, but for them it was really the thing to success. This detail changed the whole match, and they won by far.
They also get other people to do this instead. They hire cyclists.
They actually hired cyclists, and they also hired a Dutch cyclist to be part of the team, sailor cyclist. They called them cyclors, which so I thought was also quite a funny detail in this. Another one is maybe this. I hope it works in terms that it plays. Well, it sounds a little bit low, but it doesn't matter. If you look at it, you understand what it's about. So this is the René Redzepi. He's the founder, the main chef of the best restaurant in the world. And it's not because I say or because other people think. It's I think in 5 years in consecutive in a row, they got the best restaurant. They became the best restaurant in the world, and it's in Copenhagen. And they merge natural ingredients, but natural ingredients really also from the sea, around what surrounds them, into their menus. And the way they look at details. And the way you just saw him putting it on the plate, I thought that's fascinating. So imagine he would not be as obsessed on these details. Would he be the best could he ever have been the best chef, the best restaurant in the world? And that's really that balance. How far do you have to go to be the best in the world? And are these details? Is every detail critical to a success? Some of them more than others, but if you don't go all the way, he probably wouldn't have gotten there. So I thought that was quite fascinating, and also linking what you just saw, sailing with a critical detail, and cooking with a critical detail. So that led me to the thought, well, there are critical details everywhere which are important and which are probably not as clear visible as we think they are. But I hope I can open your eyes today to, if you walk out, to watch more for these details and watch out for these critical details. Next one is actually, and probably the user is not really a detail, but you see how it links. This is quite a user centricity in detail. I thought this was quite brilliant with when Starbucks they decided to put I don't know if you have that experience, but they put the names on the back of your cup, and most of the time they also as a policy, wrote your name wrongly, so that you draw attention to it, and it was a funny kind of touch to the whole experience. They did it on purpose. They did it on purpose, and it went viral all over the place, and it has gone already. But the fact that they put the name on it was linked to actually the operational thing, so then you knew that your cup was ready. But it also added that kind of personal touch to the whole thing. So it's not just selling a coffee, it's selling the whole, personally made for you. And but it looks like a detail, but at the end, if you take all the thing away, it's just coffee. It's very, very good coffee though. But it's, you disagree? You have fans and you have people who hate it, I know. Too much tasting. Too much roasting. Yeah. Oh, too much roasting. Yeah. Oh, which is a good detail, isn't it? How do you balance that? What is too much? It's a general taste, probably.
They have their own flavor signature, basically.
Ah.
Yeah,
yeah, I can imagine.
It's a national taste. Different nationalities like.
They have different tastes. So that's why I think they're in Italy. Then they won't really succeed in their attempt to enter there. I think they have even left again, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, another one which you're definitely familiar with, because if you're live, you've come in contact with this down the line, which is if you look at the amount of things they sell and the amount of furniture they sell, the world is full of IKEA stuff. But if you build it up on the basic thought that we want to make it as easy as possible, which they're not always succeed in, and have this little tool which is universal to everyone, I thought that was quite fascinating how they do that. Another one, and it can also go gruesomely wrong if someone didn't really think through what they were doing, and it might look like a detail. It was where chocolate was very expensive, so this company thought it's Toblerone chocolate, Swiss, by the way. Is it still? No, I think it has been sold to a bigger firm. However, I think this was in England. They decided that to save product, they sold it for the same price, but they reduced the amount of peaks, which is the signature of the product, to save money. And somebody found out, and it was a big outcry. And I think they changed it back again.
Critical mistake.
It's a very critical mistake, and yes, absolutely. But somebody thought this was not really important because nobody would notice. I thought it was quite amazing. Or maybe even somebody thought people will live with it. So it's just actually maybe it's 3, 4, it's 1 centimeter wider. It's a detail.
But it happens a lot with all the products. Like
Yeah.
they just reduce, like how many is in a chips bag, they reduce it.
Yes.
Once in a while they reduce it and nobody notices it.
No,
So I get that they thought like nobody would know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's smarter to make it smaller.
Smaller steps.
Yeah.
Make it shorter.
well, shorter or smaller would be but
Not like that.
do not, I mean,
But it happens
The
with all
ratio
the
should be the
products,
same.
like-
yes.
But probably they would have had to replace all the molds in the manufacturing in order to.
Could-
Which might have been, I don't know. They also had to.
I think it's just what it is. I think it's just a stupid choice. And nobody down the line thought through to the end consumer in that sense, what does it mean?
But is it because this was a critical detail of the product?
Good question. I don't know. It turns out to be a very critical detail to the product and to its success. It turned out to be. But the question is it a detail? And that's also the fascinating thing about the theme. When is it critical? When is it a detail? Somebody thought, well, it's a detail that it's just a centimeter or 8 millimeters wider. But at the end, it turned out to be not a detail. It turned out to be a critical detail. So things all have reasons, and at the end, again, the end user is crucial in this one. And if the end user, so you and me, think it's a critical detail, it is a critical detail. For some things. Huh? The next one is this, but I know you've all seen it before, probably, but to help people to use spaces and places, to connect them with them. And sometimes the system doesn't really reflect a house, a home, a space, doesn't really reflect the use. And in our experience, if that is the case, we become the nightmare of all architects, because then we have to do things to help people to understand the space, and that means we have to add written information and tell them what to do. While if you do it right from the beginning, so you try to start with the user's needs and you build from there, there's actually no need, there would be no need for wayfinding. Maybe a couple of things. People have to know where the toilet is, which door the toilet is, and where the exit is, but that's about it. But because that balance between how a building looks, how it is organized, and what you have to do to understand it, that is always a disjoint in that, and that's where the need for information comes in. This is also quite an interesting piece, because we encounter a lot. One of the rules you see in our work, so in wayfinding, is that you can assume that people won't read. So if you suggest a picture tells the story, you will read the picture. You won't read the text in it. And you see here that actually, if you look at it, you're quite confused, because both doors are open and there are 2 buttons. So what should I do with it? Probably in this case, it would have been better if that is applying to just close that door, and then that's closing and that's opening. So a picture tells much more about, or much quicker, with the least effort, what people want us to do, or what this system wants us to do. I don't know where it is actually. Probably it's in a train or a train station. An S could be.
That's the yellow and blue button.
Oh, you see the colors. Good.
We know.
So which is very strange to have branding on very functional buttons. But I think it's an S. You're right.
But I think it makes sense, at least you remember for the rest of your life that, okay, yellow opens it for you.
Unless you're on another place.
I mean, at least in the Netherlands, they were the yellow opens it, because otherwise you always
Oh, correct. The only problem with that is there are quite some people which are not able to see color.
Oh, right, yes.
And
It's not the red and green,
Yeah.
which would be worse.
red and green would be worse. Yeah, it's just one color. But also, there are a lot of colorblind people in the world. And one other kind of basic rule we apply is that we designed for everyone. So whatever we do, it has to work for an extremely large group of people, for really everyone. And that's quite a hard sell because you cannot actually do it perfect for everyone, but you can at least have the basics right so that they understand, that you understand the basic, definitely if they're crucial, the basic use of this thing. This part of our work, this is Artis in Amsterdam, the zoo, and well, this has been done a long time before I started the company, but I thought it was a very nice example where actually part of the wayfinding, and the main part of the wayfinding is based on their main customers, or the main that's kids. So the heights of the information is also applied to that, and kids probably don't read, so they're reading the pictures. And they are, again, used through the whole park. So maybe you understand now why I'm a little bit fascinated about this kind of work. Because it's really broad, and that's the great thing. And really broad, also something we do in terms of, it's more information design, I would say, but really helping people to understand I think in English it's the medical instruction leaflet, in Dutch the bijsluiter, which is most of the time, I don't know how many of you have read it properly, but if you try, it's a book.
It's depressing.
It's a book, it's depressing, and it's very crucial to read it though. If you need it, it's crucial to read it, but quite some people are not able to read it. Because they're illiterate, or they have some form of illiteracy, or because these things tend to be written by lawyers, or at least are checked by lawyers, because at the end, if you don't do the right thing, you could get sued, or accidents happen. So that's why it's so important. And here, by the way, color, the green, yes, you can write and draw attention with the yellow, that their color comes in. But also not as an ultimate guidance tool, but just as an add-on to make it a little bit more clear. So much about critical details and I don't know if you get to see by now about the details. We came from how you become the world's best, which sometimes is based on details. A user as a starting point, and it's quite important that you get the critical details right. And the last one is a little bit something which I quite got fascinated by when looking at it, because we are busy with it quite some time. The whole world of pictograms and pictures who tell us what to do instead of text. And if you look closer, they actually, and especially I especially like this one, a colleague of mine made. It's the roundings, and it's really a nice, simple shape. What is quite funny, if you go closer, it doesn't really reflect reality, but it's used to be understood from far. So some things are, a kid would never have a stump like that. The head is maybe a little bit too big, a little bit too small, but it's all based on how far apart you have to read it, be able to read it. Also, if you would add this head a little bit more to the left, it would be a whole other pose and a whole other information you get from it. So I went a little bit through our collection and was looking around. This one is quite interesting as well. A policeman. But he's looking the other way. He's looking another way. Correct. But the thing is, and I'll get to that example in a second. You'll see.
I think his head is sideways.
Yes, I thought so too in the beginning.
Always looks at you.
The thing is, if you put it here, you can't see it. If you put it here, it's like more baseball. So well, I'll get to him in a second. Let's start with this. What do you say this is?
Cocktail bar?
Cocktail. Yeah, could be. Probably most of the pictograms look like that as a cocktail bar because the shape gives it away, but it's a certain cocktail, I guess. You have cocktails which are straight. If you put a straight glass, you wouldn't recognize it. So how do you recognize things just based on a couple of lines? You add stuff. And suddenly, if you add stuff, it gets a little bit more closer. In a glance, you understand what it could be. A lot of cherries. So if we get to the original, it's a martini. Yeah. So you see that with every little detail helps us to, if you look quickly through things, help us to understand instantly what it could be. And every other detail, wrong detail, puts it on the wrong foot. So you might say, well, normally you would also have a kind of a toothpick in it. However, from a distance you won't recognize. So this is quite in its simplicity, I would say a critical detail to understand it quickly what it is. I don't know if it's that an important topic, a cocktail bar, but there are other ones you'll see. This one, you've just seen it in the beginning. If you look at it, what would you say it is? It's a man with a funny hat, I would say.
Yeah, you can see it's a big cap.
I think Duan.
Sorry?
I think Duan.
Douane. Yeah? So it's maybe not official enough. So you add a kind of a detail which makes it a little bit more official. Authority. The hat with the caps. Not too many people have caps like that. So you can't put it in front. You won't see it in this little drawing. So you have to put it somewhere. Should it now be left or right? But maybe this is not enough. So you need to add this authority and a kind of a badge. And where would you think this is? Because, sorry?
US probably. The shape of the badge.
Yes, correct. So you would say the pictograms are international, very universal signs, but they all need to need to be tailored to the occasion and to culture. Because this is actually a kind of iconic stereotype probably of a person in the US which thinks about police and authority. And this specifically is for in New York, but I don't know how it would be in the West if there is a difference. However, if this is New York, where is this? No, but it could be. This is in Geneva. Sorry?
He's very tall.
He's taller, and he's very well dressed. Yes, and a holster. And with my background, I recognize this picture a little bit from somewhere in the 50s, 60s. They had these hats, and they had this. It's kind of a white kind of, I don't know what it is, even a ribbon with their holster. A leather.
It's all leather.
Leather strap, yeah, but in white. I remember the white actually.
That's Carabinieri.
As well, true, Italy. So you see how these little things actually, if we would put this in the States, they would probably not understand and think we're in Disneyland. And while the opposite should be true, this should be say this is a place of authority and this is the police. Another very interesting topic on this is obviously the toilet signs around the world are quite. It's quite interesting because we've, as I just mentioned, I think in the beginning we've done work in Dubai as well, in the Middle East, and it's a totally different thing. So you have to be very careful how you dress the lady, because this one is probably so kind. It's very slim tie, and has a very wide skirt. It's maybe a little bit dated. It's also a little bit of 50s kind of feel. But still, from afar, you see quite well the difference, between the man and the woman as figures. Well, then this is we had a lot of discussions. How wide should it be, and and absolutely also how long should it be? Sorry.
The Midwest.
Probably, probably. And for these bigger like airports and official places, these are critical details, because everyone will have an opinion about it, and it's also opinion one. It's culturally driven, but it's also functional driven. So if it's not instantly recognizable, this is it doesn't do its job. It should do actually.